Hello, I'm Dr. Ko, and on this channel, I share recent research from academic journals. Let me ask you something. What time did your child wake up this morning? Actually, let me put it a different way. Did they wake up on their own, or did you have to call them 2, 3, maybe 4 times before they finally got up? And what about weekend mornings? Is it pretty much the same as weekdays, or is it a completely different story? These might sound like simple questions about daily habits. But after you see the research I am sharing today, I think you will find that these questions carry a much more important signal than we usually think. The study I want to introduce was published in 2026 in an international academic journal called Children. It's a large-scale study from Japan about 19,000 elementary, middle, and high school students, and it looks at the relationship between sleep patterns and school refusal. The research team was from the Department of Child Development at Osaka University. And here's what I find most interesting. They were not focused on how much sleep children were getting. They were focused on the consistency of sleep. Whether children were going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day. Let me give you some background first. In Japan, the number of students refusing to go to school has been increasing for 11 years in a row. The most recent data shows 346,482 students, that's 3.72% of all students, in a state of school refusal. A record high. And this is not just a problem in Japan. Children who won't go to school or can't go to school, this is becoming a reality that many of us are seeing closer and closer to home. We often hear the usual explanations for school refusal: bullying, academic pressure, conflict with teachers, family issues. But this study puts a spotlight on something that has not received nearly enough attention on that list: sleep. The research team identified 4 types of sleep patterns among students. The first group is what they call the regular group, children whose wake-up time, bedtime, and sleep duration are consistent every day. This was 52.5% of students. The second group is the somewhat irregular group at 22.5%. The third is the irregular group at 10.9%. And the fourth, this is the one I find most interesting, is what the researchers call the schedule-dependent group at 14.1%. These are children whose sleep patterns vary significantly depending on whether it's a school day or a day off. There's actually a technical term for this, what is called social jet lag. Think about it this way. It's like your child is traveling to a different time zone every weekend and then has to readjust every Monday morning without ever getting on a plane. Now, these kids are still showing up to school, so from the outside, things might look fine. But the research tells a different story. This group was showing similar levels of difficulty as the irregular group. Attendance does not necessarily mean everything is okay. Now, let me share the key numbers. Among students with persistent school refusal, meaning they refused school both the previous year and the current year, 37.9% fell into the irregular sleep group. Among students who were attending school regularly, that number was only 10%. And for students who had refused school the previous year but had returned, 17.9% were still in the irregular sleep group. When you look at these 3 numbers together, a clear story emerges. Sleep irregularity exists before school refusal begins. It gets worse as school refusal continues. And even after a child returns to school, their sleep rhythm does not easily recover. Just because a child picks up their backpack again does not mean their body has caught up. The study also looked at what researchers called protective factors, things that help prevent school refusal. And consistently, students with irregular sleep scored lower across all of them. Having a teacher who understands you, feeling confidence in your studies, being able to communicate well with others, having a place outside of school where you feel you belong. Every single one of these was lower in students with irregular sleep. But the lowest score of all, I get along well with my family. Sleep problems are not just a child individual issue. They are deeply connected to the relationships the child lives in every day. So what can we actually do at home? Before I go into specifics, I want to say something first. When a child's sleep pattern breaks down, it's often not the family's fault. Children's schedules today, tutoring, homework, extracurricular activities, are already set up in a way that pushes sleep aside. You have not done something wrong, but within that reality, the home can still be the last line of defense for protecting a child's sleep rhythm. That's the message I want to leave with you today. First, make a sleep schedule together as a family. There's a real difference between a parent saying you need to be in bed by 10 and a family sitting down together and deciding on a bedtime. When children are part of making that decision, they are much more likely to follow it. You don't need to make it a big event. After dinner, just ask, what time do you think we should try to go to bed this week? That one question can be the starting point. Second, pay attention to the weekend sleep pattern. When your child sleeps until noon on Saturday, that's not always just catching up on rest. There's a term for this, what is called sleep debt. It's what happens when the body has been missing sleep all week and tries to make up for it all at once on days off. The research found that children whose sleep differed significantly between school days and days off were already struggling, even if they were still showing up to school. If your child's weekend wake-up time is more than 2 hours later than on weekdays, that's worth taking seriously. Third, try keeping a sleep log for just 2 weeks. This doesn't have to be complicated. Each day, just write down what time your child fell asleep, what time they woke up, and how rested they seemed in the morning. A sticky notes on the refrigerator is enough. After 2 weeks, you will start to see patterns you could not see before. Which days were harder? How big is the gap between weekdays and weekends? That log becomes not a reason to score, but a starting point for a real conversation with your child. Fourth, build an evening routine together. What happens in the hour before bedtime often matters more than the bedtime itself. This study did not address it directly, but related research consistently shows that screen use before bed disrupts both the quality and consistency of sleep. Designing a simple evening wind-down routine as a family and sticking to it is one of the most realistic things you can do to protect your child's sleep rhythm. Let me close with this. A child who cannot get up in the morning may not be lazy. Their body may have been sending signals for a long time, signals that we sometimes overlook because of frustration or urgency. The tutoring, the homework, the activities, all of it comes from a place of caring about your child. I understand that, But if all of those things are gradually pushing sleep out of the picture, there is still something we can protect inside the home. What time the lights go off tonight, what time you gently wake them tomorrow morning, those small rhythms can be a much bigger support for a child than we often realize. The strongest protective factor in this research was relationships. And at the center of those relationships was family. You don't have to build a perfect sleep environment overnight. The fact that you noticed something might be off, and then you're thinking about what you can do, and alone is already one of the most important things parents can offer. If you found today's video helpful, please subscribe and give it a like. Thank you.